Remember on episode 65 when a listener asked us which studio management software is the best? Well, today we're going deeper into that question. I'm talking with Pattee of MyMusicStaff about why integrated systems matter so much. Because here's the thing, when the tools you use to manage your studio talk to each other, you're not just saving time on spreadsheets and manual data entry, you're getting back hours every week that you can use to actually grow your business. This conversation is all about working smarter, not harder. I want to talk real quick about instructor training. Training is incredibly time-consuming, and it's actually something I used to avoid because of it. I'd hire a new guitar instructor and basically cross my fingers, hoping for the best. That strategy, or lack of strategy, just wasn't sustainable. My goal now is providing staff with the right tools to teach effectively and feel confident. When I published Complete Guitar Strumming, I did all the hard, time-consuming work in the front end. Along with the book, I've created a free instructor companion guide and training videos to help new instructors learn the material quickly and teach with confidence. These are the exact same training tools I use, and anyone using the book gets access to them. So you don't need to spend hours training your guitar instructors. I've done the heavy lifting for you. Visit rockschoolproprietor.com/book for all the details. Welcome to Rock School Proprietor Podcast. My name's John Kazicki, and my co-host, Mandy York, will not be joining the conversation today. Instead, I'm here with Pattee from MyMusicStaff. Adam is a demo and onboarding specialist for the platform, and he works with music school owners on a daily basis. Adam, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So on a recent podcast episode that Mandy and I released, we were doing a little bit of a rundown, not super in-depth, but just a quick, hey, here are some platforms that music schools and lesson studios use to manage things like scheduling and billing. And MyMusicStaff was mentioned in that episode. And in that release of that episode, there was a little bit of communication back and forth with myself and Dasha, who works for MyMusicStaff, and she had emailed me saying, this is a quote, "There have been a lot of changes and improvements in MyMusicStaff over the past few years, and we'd love a chance to talk about them and clear up the idea that MyMusicStaff is mainly for independent teachers or smaller music schools." And her comment came from me mentioning that MyMusicStaff is great for independent instructors because of the ease of use and the price point. Now, I wasn't saying it's not good for larger schools, but it does make me ponder that question. Where do you think that idea comes from, Adam?
No, well, yeah. So thank you for the mention on the last episode. That was great. And yeah, we sort of don't know where that narrative has come from, to be honest with you, but it is sort of out there, and it's something that we're trying to course correct on a little bit, because although, we've been around for over 12 years and we take feedback from our users who are independent music teachers, music shop owners, they have lesson programs. We have a lot of large customers as well, and certainly we have the features to back that up too. Now, you mentioned, recent changes, and that's absolutely right. If you've not checked out MyMusicStaff in, say, the last 2 years or so, it's almost a completely different app now in all the best ways. So we've made a lot of changes for the single teacher, but also for those larger studios. And yeah, like I said, we have the features to back that up. I can get into some of them if you'd like. But yeah, we're not so much just for the independent music studio or the solopreneur, the solo teacher. We certainly can, service those larger customers as well.
So, yeah, I think we might get into some of those features, but to kind of give you my perspective and where my statement came from, because I was doing a rundown of a few of the platforms that I'm familiar with, and MyMusicStaff is one of them that I used to use, and I used over 5 years ago, because you mentioned that 5-year mark. So it was a while ago, but I would also say so much has changed in software in the last 5 years. In our post-COVID world, there's tons that's different about the software world, and also I think expectations of what not only like users of MyMusicStaff, like myself, like studio owners would expect, but also from the consumer side, from our students and parents, what they might expect. So it's, obviously that's great to hear. Yeah, MyMusicStaff is reacting to those changes and making proper updates. So before we get into features, I want to go back to probably what you'll have some great insight on. And because you're someone who works with music school owners and instructors on a daily basis, you speak with a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see instructors or studio owners struggling with maybe prior to implementing a studio management software? And what are the problems that you think they're looking to solve?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Honestly, when I'm doing the demos and I'm onboarding new members to MyMusicStaff, not necessarily a feature or a problem that they come to me that they even know about, but sort of is realized as we go through the process, is that having a software in place can help you sort of give off a bit more of that professional presentation, but also with that staying a bit more rigid to your policies. I find a lot of studio owners and music teachers that don't have those policies in place for things like cancellation. They're typically, making one-off exceptions, but on the regular a bit more than they'd like to, and they're accepting a few more cancellations and these types of things. But having a software in place where the customer can self-reschedule, self-cancel, and it very rigidly follows your cancellation policy that you've set up with, showing them that policy text and so on, it sort of helps them better navigate that situation instead of constantly making exemptions, which ultimately does affect your bottom line as well.
Yeah. So I think to put it in more like real life practical terms, and for better or worse, it creates this sort of barrier between, and again, I don't mean to go back to that, like that smaller studio or the solo instructor, but I think that is where something like this really comes into play because, I used to be in that world too. When I first started my first business and the second one, it was just me. And you form these relationships with your clients and your students, and you're the one that they are talking to. And again, better or worse, we're empathetic. Most people are. We want to please our customers. We want to please our clients. And when they ask something that is maybe a little bit too far beyond what we're comfortable with, it's tough to say no. And to say, we can't do this. Or if someone says, hey, I missed a couple of lessons last month. Can you just charge me for, 50% this month? It's really hard to say no. But a software platform, when it's automated, when those payments are automated, when things like scheduling are automated, it creates this invisible barrier, right? And if you don't have an admin in place or something like that, who is that person who's going to say no, and you're paying them to say no, then it creates that barrier and gives you a little bit more freedom.
Yes, absolutely. And when I follow up with those same people that are in exactly that spot, and they've now put this policy in place and they've got the software in place now, they were expecting, all this pushback and all this change from parents, but no. They go to cancel lesson. The software says, this is beyond our policy. You're still going to be charged, what have you. And the teacher never hears about it. The studio owner never hears about it. So it does sort of take a lot of that burden off of them. Okay.
And what would you say to someone who's still resistant to that idea? Like, oh yeah, but I like to have those personal relationships, but what if I'm not hearing that they're unhappy and they just decide to quit? What would you say to someone like that?
Totally. Yeah. Well, what I would say to that is there's always the human element still. That's never going away. You as the owner, as the admin, you can always make an exemption. You can not put that policy in place right away. You don't have to use that feature. And certainly should, an extenuating circumstance come up, you can, better. You can always override something. But in the people that I've spoken to, honestly, that doesn't really come up. I haven't heard that they have this, mass exodus of students because they've introduced a software-based cancellation policy or anything like that.
Right. And so what have you heard that is the positive? So let's say we're talking about someone who has been keeping a spreadsheet for their lessons,
Oh
and
yeah.
also another spreadsheet for tracking their payments, and then maybe sending invoices, through QuickBooks or some other service. What would you say those people, when they implement a software, what would you
Mhm.
say that their positive reactions are?
Yeah. Well, honestly, number one is that they get so much time back. I mean,
Mhm.
keeping spreadsheets fine, but it requires a lot of manual work and oversight and really staying on top of it and always, having to update it and things like that. So, yeah, the number one thing I hear that they get back is their time, which either means that they can have free time or more time to teach, as well as obviously having all the systems talk to each other, having the calendar talk to the invoicing, having those connections there in one platform versus using QuickBooks and a spreadsheet and all these sort of things that are disconnected. You're doing
Mhm.
so much admin work just to sort of keep those. You're the switchboard, right? You're the one connecting all those apps together and sort of keeping it all in place. And yeah, time is the number one thing that people get back for sure.
Okay. Now, Adam, you and I were talking before we started the recording, and I'd asked you, "Are you a musician? Do you have any any ties to music?" And you said, "Nope, not a musician. You're a little bit more from the tech background,"
Mm,
and and I think that can be, I think that can be a positive for us who are in the musical world, because it allows us to get a different perspective, a fresher perspective, one that is not necessarily under that umbrella of creativity and music. So we need folks like you. Now, being that you are not a musician, but you work with them all the time.
mhm.
What have you learned about music instructors and studio owners from working so closely with, I'm assuming, hundreds, maybe thousands at this point? I don't know.
Mhm. Absolutely, yep.
Yeah. What's something that you've learned about us? What weird quirks do we have?
No, that's a great question. Honestly, I really love our community. It is great talking to, like you're saying, the creative people. They're a fun crowd. I always have a great time, having conversations with musicians and music studio owners. There's definitely some quirks. Namely, I would say a lot of people like to, how should I phrase this? Sort of reinvent
Just
the wheel, maybe in terms
just
of
phrase
pricing.
it. I'm not going to be offended. I'll
No,
translate it for our audience for you.
yeah. So I would say that, you know, there's nothing wrong with being creative, and certainly that's definitely needed in terms of business practice, I mean. But sometimes the simpler the better. Sometimes it really is better to charge an hourly rate for a lesson instead of this price if it's under 30 minutes, this price if it's 45, and a different price if it's 60. And so I don't directly give business advice to our members ever. We sort of stay away from that. But
Of
what
course,
I
yeah.
would say is sort of a quirky trait that I have noticed in the music community, which is quite funny. And a lot of people end up commenting back on it later and saying, you know what, Adam, I did actually just switch to hourly billing because it's a lot easier to understand. Is I would say, yeah, they do all these different pricing models and things like that. But there is beauty in simplicity sometimes. It's a lot easier just to keep it straightforward.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I think, and that's again going back to why I think it's important. And this goes to, I think, for anything is to get that outside perspective, because if most music instructors are like myself, there's this trajectory, and it usually follows this path of, hey, I'm a musician, and then I'm going to start teaching, and I'm going to, it's just going to be me teaching. And then, maybe I will get a commercial location and
Hmm.
start to grow. And then next thing you know, you've got like this really complex, hopefully successful business,
Hmm.
but you can't run it the same way when it is more complex as it is, as you did when it was just you.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that complexity comes in, and the need to be able to simplify. I don't think anyone goes into it saying, you know what, I think I want to have really complicated billing processes that are hard for
Hmm.
anyone to understand, and even myself. I think they go into it thinking, this is what I do and this is what I charge. And as it evolves, it just becomes more complicated. So
Hmm.
we need that outside perspective sometimes for someone to say, like, hey, this could be a little bit easier if we
Hmm.
just tweak things this way and that way. And then there's the whole like resistance to change. But what do people
Mhm.
think? There's used to this now. How do I adapt to it? So I don't think it's in the defense of our community. I think there's, that's the problem. Yes, we've identified the problem. That's the cause of it. But now let's fix it. Because I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah. And honestly, it is a good problem to have. So the people I meet, they some of them have told me point blank, they say, I just want to teach. I don't want to be a business owner. I now have all these responsibilities. I have staff. I have overhead. I have rent. I have to worry about marketing campaigns. They're like, I didn't ask for this. Like, it's a great problem to have, but
Right.
they need sort of that lifeline. They need that support. And that's what we hope to provide is we give them some tools to help manage their business, ease the burden, automate the processes for them, and ultimately take away some of that headache. But I've had people point blank saying the last year has just been explosive for me, and they're so happy about that, but they sort of didn't expect all this other stuff that comes with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when you take these big steps, like implementing a software like this is a big step.
Mm-hmm.
If you've not done that, if you've not had something. And I think when you do that, it's worth considering, okay, what this is going to do is it's going to buy me some time, as you alluded to. I'm not going to be spending time on invoicing. I'm not going to be spending time on tracking down payments, and I'm not going to be spending as much time on scheduling. So I think it's worth looking at, how do you want to use that extra time when this is in place, right? So like, what will you do with that time to get your, to get your own motivation like fired up, or to decide, I want to generate this other income, So I think it's worth in the front end, or when you're implementing something like that, to think about like, okay, yeah, I'm going to implement this. I'm going to put this system in place. How am I going to leverage that?
Right.
Yeah. You'd mentioned we were talking about how many music school owners and studio owners you speak with.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed any patterns or common traits among the more successful studio owners? And again, going back to that idea of MyMusicStaff, yes, it works great for the solo instructor, but it also works well for larger studios. Presumably those larger studios have gone through that trajectory, right? They went from that solo instructor and had a vision. And have you noticed any patterns among the more successful?
Yeah, I mean, just on that point too, that's actually a really exciting thing that our team loves to sort of monitor and watch and keep note of too, is because we've been around for 12 years, we've actually grown with a lot of our customers. So a lot of the people that have used us since early on have grown with us, and now they're those larger customers that we say that we're able to serve. And it's because they've grown with us. They've used the software, since early on, or since day one in some cases. And as they've expanded, we've listened to their feedback. We've implemented features. We get all the payroll tracking has been added. We have the availability-based booking. So if you're handling a large team, be it, dozens or even hundreds of teachers, we can help with that now. And that's directly from the feedback of our amazing members. So a lot of them have been able to grow with us, which is so exciting to see. I would say the trends I see, it's a bit of a hard question to answer, namely because every business is so unique in many different ways. And certainly we're also, not necessarily involved in their day-to-day business in terms of their offering, their policy, that sort of thing.
Sure.
But what I would say is an overall trend that I've seen with the successful studios for sure is just have a good product. I mean, the people that are passionate, the people that know what they're doing, the people that can identify those great instructors and make those right hires, those are the people that are succeeding. The people that are maybe just, purchasing a music studio because they think it's a great business to get into, it could definitely work. And I'm not, saying anything about that, but certainly the passion comes through. So when you're, talking to parents, or you have those amazing instructors and you get that word of mouth reputation, it's all organic from there. And that's certainly a trend I've seen, and talking to them as well. Members with, larger staff counts is therefore student counts too. Word of mouth is by far the number one driver for growth. They're always, doing referral programs, having referral credits for students, things like that. So just having that good product, the good service, those great people, that's definitely the key to success there with those larger accounts.
Okay. Yeah, we talk a lot about culture and community on this podcast, and that speaks to exactly what we promote here, which is, yes, you've got to have that good community. You've got to have the studio that people want to come to because they feel
Mm-hmm.
good coming there, and
Mm-hmm.
that's going to enhance that word of mouth advertising and get the word out about your studio. As it grows, we need more tools
Mm-hmm.
to manage those things, right? We need, because I mean, this is going to sound crazy. I've been in this business for a really long time. The very first job I got teaching guitar, the store that I was working at, they still tracked on with pen and paper the
Mm-hmm.
lessons and the payments. Like,
Oh yeah.
and I think about myself at this point, and if I were to try and do that in my studio, it would be maddening. It would be absolute. Like, I can't even imagine how I would do everything
Yeah,
on
for sure.
paper like that with in the absence of software. But okay, circling back a little, you had
Mhm.
mentioned you've seen these studios grow with MyMusicStaff, and is there a process in place there on accepting the feedback from users and how that shapes the product and the development decisions at MyMusicStaff?
Absolutely. I mean, that's our primary source of feedback is our customers. So, I mean, in app, there's a question mark icon. You can hit that. There's a feature request button. You can fire off your feature request there. We ask you sort of what's missing and how would it help you. We are constantly tracking, no joke, thousands of pieces of feedback from our
Wow.
community, which is phenomenal. We love it. And I
Hmm.
promise you, every one of them are recorded and reviewed, but it's not always possible to sort of implement everything. As you
Yeah.
say, we need to sort of be that solution that works really well for that single teacher, that solopreneur, but also for that large school. So we internally, we do gauge that all. We review that, and based on, popularity and how we think it could help the rest of the community, that's how we drive our roadmap and what we develop next. But sort of on that note as well, we're a completely independent company. We're just like our customers. So we're an
Hmm.
independent, self-sustained business that has sort of grown organically. We don't have outside investors, hedge funds, Silicon
Yeah.
Valley money, none of this. We answer to our customers. So because of that, that is our number one source for feature development, improvements. And on a monthly basis, we put out a blog post too about all the changes and enhancements that we make too. So certainly if there's any bugs, we love to squash those as fast as possible. Call our support team, report something, we'll get on
Hmm.
it right away.
Yeah.
But in terms of developing the product, that's right from the community and those features that our members have identified that they need as they grow.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are there any, like, maybe lesser known features that in MyMusicStaff that people would be surprised by to hear?
Yeah, there's a handful, and I sort of always get that question, but it does depend on if you're a current user or not. So it depends on what you're using. But generally speaking, I would say a feature
Well,
that
let
we've
me
given.
do
Oh,
this. Let me set the stage, right?
okay, okay.
So I would say for the majority of us, we're going to say, like, all right, I need a software that
Mm-hmm,
is going to automate my billing.
mm-hmm,
I need a software that I can utilize to manage schedule.
mm-hmm,
Those are the two biggest features that I need. And I need those to work really well. Oh, obviously with the payment, that's going to integrate with credit card processing, right?
mm-hmm.
So I need those three things to be top notch.
Yeah.
From there, I'm going to look at what other features are involved or included and assess, is that something I can use? Is that something that's going to be
Mm,
helpful to me?
really.
And then knowing how these platforms go, we get messaging from, client to studio. We get maybe some learning management stuff there, adding assignments. So those would be kind of like, in my mind, those second tier features that,
Sure.
like, yeah, cool, I can use these. This is going to be great. What else would be in, like, second tier or even third tier where you're just like, this is amazing?
Well, I mean, yeah, thanks for that rephrase there. That's a great way to sort of position it. What I would say to that is it may not be sort of lesser known, but something that definitely helps set us apart as well and helps a business, as you're starting, maybe as you're that single teacher, certainly though, as you're growing into that larger studio, is our website builder. That's something that not a lot of other software in this space has. You don't need a Wix, a Squarespace. You can actually build your entire site in MyMusicStaff using our templates. Very easy to use. You don't need that technical background. All the hosting is included too. Now, if you're, as you build out that site and certainly as you grow within that website feature, we have sign up forms too. So even if you have your own actual website, Squarespace, wherever that is, you can embed those forms on that site or your MyMusicStaff site. And we have sign up forms and you can have as many of those as you need, totally customizable. And those forms allow for people to join a wait list, book that first, free trial, book that intro call. So it can help with funneling in from the internet those new customers. And then sort of getting into the nitty gritty, because you asked maybe about some of these lesser known features, we have an awesome group tag system in MyMusicStaff. We sort of gave it a bit of a rework, a bit of a facelift, maybe let's call it about a year ago now. And our members have been really enjoying it. So you can now tag students based on, well, anything you want. They're completely customizable. But those sign-up forms, because you can have multiple of them, they can tag students certain ways. So if you had, a guitar page on your site for wait list for guitar lessons, they could be tagged as that guitar wait list right away. And then later, maybe you're sending them an email or you're booking a group workshop, or if you're integrating with Zapier, that can send something to maybe an email campaign software like MailChimp. So a combination of those features sort of working together is a really great piece as well. So not just building the website, having those forms, but using that tagging system and then certainly the integration of those features as well.
So a couple of follow-up questions to that. With the tagging system, so that starts to, if I'm understanding this correctly, that's starting to veer into almost like your marketing management, right? How do I make sure that the right people are getting the right information and not the information that they don't need? Now, is aside from the tagging, is there's not any sort of like email marketing integrated into MyMusicStaff, correct?
Well, you can send those bulk emails. There is an email functionality, but maybe not all of those marketing features like something like a MailChimp would have. I mean, those are dedicated softwares for a reason. Right. But there is definitely email functionality within our platform.
And I think that goes back to what you said about feature requests that, or that you get from users, right? You've got thousands of them. And I think it's really easy for us, if we love something, we're like, oh my gosh, this is great. If only it could do this one other thing. Yeah. I'm a firm believer though, in like, maybe when it comes to software, get something that's really good at like a few things. And then for other things, you can go to something else that's really good at those things. And that's where I think there's that delineation.
Sort of that like jack of all trades, master of one type dilemma, right? So we know what we do well, and we, like you said, the billing, the scheduling, that has to be rock solid. But there are companies like, MailChimp, for example, for email campaigns, that's their whole thing. So if they're the pros, we can integrate with them, via Zapier and all this kind of stuff. But there is sort of that line where you develop a feature, but we want to give a good experience as well.
Yeah. Analogy here. So my primary instrument is guitar. I am a fantastic guitar instructor. I play drums also. I have a decent drum instructor, right?
Yeah.
I get to a certain point and like it's time to go to someone else because it's just beyond my skill set. Okay, again, going back to the features, domains and website builder. Now, the website builder is built into MyMusicStaff. And I'm just to clarify this stuff. So if I'm a MyMusicStaff user and I want to build my website through MyMusicStaff, what is that URL going to look like? And can I maybe get a domain name for my business and then what do they call that? Port the website over to that domain name or reroute?
Right. Yeah. So excuse me. So out of the box, you do get a yourname.mymusicstaff.com domain. That's free. That's included. That's there from day dot. But certainly you can purchase your own domain. Now, we're not a domain registrar, so you'll go to, GoDaddy, something like that, buy your domain for $15, $20, whatever that is. And through something called a CNAME record, which you have to only set up once, you'll point that domain to our hosting service. We have a help article on how to do that. It honestly takes about 5 minutes, but our support team, we do it all day. So we're happy to help with that if there's any struggles. So yes, you can have a MyMusicStaff website, but with your own custom domain, in fact.
Okay. All right. Any lesser known features that might surprise me? Because again, I probably should have mentioned this. I think I used MyMusicStaff, I want to say like 2017, 2018.
Right.
Around then. So it's been a while.
Oh yeah. We got a lot of changes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Adam, this has been enlightening. Okay, one more question then.
Okay.
So, and I want to clarify, and again, going back to why I had recommended MyMusicStaff as like a great platform for someone just getting started. And I still stand by that. If you've got a larger studio, like what's maybe like a really large studio that uses MyMusicStaff, not by name, but like by numbers.
Yeah, so we don't share specifics for sure, but I can comfortably tell you, we have customers with hundreds and hundreds of teachers using our platform.
That's incredible. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, gotcha. And I know my understanding is that pricing is based on per teacher, right? For the most part.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a very simple, transparent pricing model. What we don't do is charge you per student, per appointment. We don't charge you extra for website hosting, for SMS lesson reminders. There's zero other charges of any kind for our services. We charge you just based on the number of teachers you have. Now, there's also no contract, no smoke and mirrors, no commitment to that. You can actually even upgrade and downgrade as you please many times in a month. So, over the summer, if you add on a couple temporary teachers for those, summer programs and you take them off a few months later, you're only paying for them while you're using them.
Okay. This has been great, Adam. So obviously MyMusicStaff.com is where someone would go if they were interested. The features are going to be listed there. The pricing is going to be listed there. Any other things that you want to share with our listeners? Should they reach out to you? Should they reach out to other people if they want to get maybe a demo or talk about specific features?
Absolutely. So we'd love to hear from anybody. We can answer any questions. MyMusicStaff.com is definitely the best place. There's a join free button. No contract, no credit card, none of that. You could just jump into a trial, 30-day free trial. You get full access to the entire software. We also have on our website the phone number. You can give our team a phone call. We're real humans here, no phone trees and AI bots. So send us an email, give us a call. Also on the site is a book a demo button. So you could check out our pre-recorded sort of on-demand demo at your own time. Or if you want to actually have a sit-down chat, ask those specific questions, you can meet with very likely myself or somebody else from our team. We would love to help out.
All right. Okay. Adam, Pattee, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and clearing up any misconceptions and correcting my any false statements I made about MyMusicStaff. That'll wrap it up for Rock School Proprietor Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
If you have topic suggestions or questions, please contact us at info@rockschoolproprietor.com. We'd love to hear from you and hear suggestions for future shows. We've put together some free resources for teachers and studio owners over at rockschoolproprietor.com and a private Facebook group called The Modern Music School. Please join us over there. On social, I'm at rock.school.proprietor on Instagram and John Kazicki on both LinkedIn and Blue Sky. Your ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify are always appreciated. And if you enjoyed the show and gain insight from our conversation, then we count that as a win. All we ask in return is that you pay it forward and please share the show with someone you think needs to hear it.